At least one good thing did come out of Megxit. Charles and his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth, were brought much closer in their mission to stop Harry and Meghan from doing whatever they wanted to. Hello, my friends, and a very warm welcome to Kate Middleton and the Queen. All right, my friends, first of all, I have got to apologize for the way my voice sounds today. One of my good friends accidentally brought COVID to our ladies' Bible study class last Saturday, and so now half of us have got it, myself included. I'm not really sick, but man, the sinus stuff is driving me crazy, so just bear with me if I sound a little funny. All right, now folks, I think by now you all know about this new book that is written by Robert Hardman. It's called The Making of a King, King Charles III and the Modern Monarchy. So the book isn't even out yet, but we're getting all kinds of excerpts, and he's got a lot of interesting information in this book. Now, some of it has been serialized in the Daily Mail. He's the one who told us that, in fact, the late Queen never approved of Harry and Meghan using her private nickname for their daughter, Lilibet. And so now he's done this interview with People magazine, and he's saying that one good thing that came out of Megxit was that Charles and the late Queen Elizabeth became a lot closer, and it's not difficult to understand why. It is interesting to me how, even though they are royals, it sounds like family relationships within the royal family are still pretty normal. So even though his mother was the queen, the truth is Charles and his late mother, Queen Elizabeth, didn't always see eye to eye on issues. In fact, they frequently disagreed about stuff. Normal, right? But one thing they agreed on was that Harry and Meghan, when they announced their plans to leave their positions as working royals, should not be allowed to continue on as part-time royals in any way, shape, or form. That Harry and Meghan needed to make a clear decision, either in or out. Now, of course, when Harry and Meghan first announced their decision to step back from royal duties, they had this wild idea that they were going to still be able to pick and choose the engagements they wanted to participate in, and then they would also be free to make their own money using their brand Sussex Royal. Well, as we know, the late Queen got wind of this ridiculous idea, and she told them absolutely not. You're not going to be allowed to make money off Sussex Royal, and you're also not going to be allowed to pick and choose what engagements you go on. Either you are fully committing yourself to your positions as working royals, or you're free to go make a living in America doing whatever you need to do to make a buck. Now, of course, she didn't say it exactly like that, considering the fact that she was the queen and she was also Harry's grandmother, but still, that was the gist of it. Harry and Meghan were not going to be allowed to just do whatever they wanted to do. Either they were going to need to fall in line as working royals, or fine, go to America. Good luck with that. And now, according to Robert Hardman, Harry and Meghan's departure brought Charles and his mother closer together. So it sounds like even though Charles and his mother frequently disagreed over minor issues, this was something they could certainly agree on. And then, of course, in 2021, Harry and Meghan did the infamous Oprah Winfrey interview. This interview marked a real turning point for Harry and Meghan, I think we could safely say, and it also sounds like this interview continued to bring Charles and his mother closer together because they were equally insulted. Speaking with People magazine, Robert Hardman said, "I don't think anything could really trump the sort of sense of shock felt by the Oprah Winfrey interview. That was huge," end quote. And I'm sure it was huge, because even when Megxit was announced, we had no idea that Harry and Meghan were going to go on to trash the royal family the way that they did. Back when they gave their reasons for leaving their positions as working royals, Harry and Meghan made it sound like they were on to something bigger and better for themselves. They wanted to be free to pursue their own interests. They wanted to be able to make their own money. And we took that at face value. We thought, all right, well, good for them. We can understand why maybe life as a working royal can be a little too constricting at times. We were also hearing about all these lucrative deals that Harry and Meghan were signing with companies like Spotify and Netflix. So we assumed their future in America was very bright indeed. And I believe for me, it was after this Oprah Winfrey interview that I started to realize that Harry and Meghan's story about why they had to leave their positions as working royals was not the whole truth. That's when I started to see that their little plan to move to America and become rich and famous was probably not going to work out so well. My suspicions that Harry and Meghan, in fact, didn't have what it takes to succeed in Hollywood were further confirmed when Harry and Meghan's docuseries titled Harry and Meghan came out on Netflix in December of 2022, and then right after that, Spare came out in January of 2023. That was when it became obvious that Harry and Meghan's only plan to make money for themselves involved throwing his family under the bus, making unfounded accusations, and even telling lies to try to portray themselves as victims. And now, thanks to Robert Hardman, we are getting more of an idea of what the reaction was like from the royal family after Harry and Meghan's bombshell accusations. Referring to King Charles, Hardman says, "There was a sort of weary resignation, but also a sense that, look, I've got so much to worry about now that I don't have the luxury of dwelling on this. If that's what they want to do, I mean, there's only so much I as a father can do, and the door is always open." And I do believe that Robert Hardman knows what he's talking about. This is an area that King Charles has been incredibly consistent in. Even though the king has never and will never make any kind of public statement about Harry and Meghan, we do get a real sense of how he feels through his friends who speak with the media. And this is the way the royal family functions. The king is not going to come out and say something publicly, but he will authorize those close to him to speak on his behalf. So when we hear stuff like the king misses Harry, he does wish that Harry would make better decisions in life, the door's always open for Harry, the king is saddened by what Harry's been saying about the family, but he still loves his son. I believe all of this. I believe the king does deeply love his son, and I do believe that he is upset to see what Harry's doing, but at the same time, there's really not much he can do. Because think about it, if King Charles were to push for Harry and Meghan's titles to be stripped, just think of the reaction from Montecito. That would give them way too much ammunition. If the king were overly punitive towards Harry and Meghan, that would simply encourage them to play the victim. That's not something he needs to do. Harry and Meghan already love to play the victim as is. They don't need any more ammunition. Instead, I think the king is making the right decision in mostly ignoring their shenanigans. That is, after all, the best way to deal with a narcissist like Meghan Markle. She cannot stand it. And I also believe what Hardman says, that there really is a sense of what could have been if Harry and Meghan only could have behaved and stayed on as working royals. He says that there is the, quote, occasional wistful thought at the palace, quote, of if they were still a part of the team and of all the things they could have done and could now be doing. He said, quote, "There is no question that Harry and Meghan are a great loss to the institution, and that is still appreciated and understood. There's absolutely no sense of good riddance or anything like that. It's fundamentally a source of deep regret," end quote. Now, while Robert Hardman says there is a sense of deep regret, I don't believe there is any sense of regret in terms of, oh, we wish we had done things differently. We should have been there more for Harry and Meghan. Instead, I think it's the kind of regret where you look at a situation and you say, wow, this really is tragic. I wish things could have turned out better. Of course, if we're looking for who to blame, it certainly is Harry and Meghan, but that still does not make the whole situation any less sad. Those of you who are not new to this channel understand well that sometimes, under some circumstances, I do feel a little bit sorry for Prince Harry because of the nasty narcissist he married. But one person I never feel even an ounce of sympathy for is certainly Meghan Markle herself. And I say that because, well, alright, Harry is an idiot. I think Harry was such easy prey for Meghan Markle. He was no match for her. I mean, she has a certain kind of intelligence, and a certain kind of idiocy too, to be certain. But when it comes to being manipulative, Meghan Markle knows what she's doing. She is very good at that. But still, even though Harry really did not stand a chance against Meghan Markle when she decided to pursue him, at the same time, he has got to be held responsible for his role in this whole mess. Harry was the one who went along with Meghan's schemes. Even if it was at Meghan's insistence, Harry is the one who so clearly betrayed his family and Spare. I mean, at the end of the day, Meghan's name is not attached to that book of lies. Harry's is. So he's got to answer for his crimes, if you ask me. He should not be easily forgiven. But at the same time, I do think that brainwashing is a very real factor in all this. I do believe that from the very beginning, Meghan Markle's narcissism coupled with Harry's lack of intelligence was a real recipe for disaster. I think at this point in time, many people continue to look back to Megxit, to look back to Harry and Meghan's time as working royals to figure out what went wrong. So, as reported by The Mirror, last week the royal historian Hugo Vickers claimed that Meghan, quote, had no intention of pulling her weight and, quote, had a little plan from the start, as she did not want to be a hard-working senior royal. And now we've got writer and broadcaster Esther Krakow saying that Meghan was probably not, quote, well prepared for the role that she would undertake. Speaking on Sky News Australia, Esther said, "The reason why these claims have come up is because the King and Princess Kate are out of action. It really calls into question how Meghan could have picked up some of the slack if she was still a working royal. The reality is, she was not necessarily the best suited to life in the royal family, and I don't blame her for that. I don't think she was well prepared for the role she would undertake, and by extension, whether she would even have wanted to take that role. One of the advantages that Kate had was that she was with William for almost a decade before they got married, and she assumed the roles she had. Harry effectively shoehorned Meghan into the institution. And it wasn't a matter of him marrying her and they were creating a life together. He married her with the intention of also having her as a working royal. He could have married her and stepped back, but he didn't. I do think that Esther is making some good points here. So first of all, with the King and the Princess of Wales both in the hospital, it does look like the royal family could really use another couple of senior members. But unfortunately, Harry and Meghan have made it clear that they don't want to do that. And at this point in time, even if they wanted to come back, they couldn't possibly do it thanks to all the behavior we have seen from them over the past few years. But I think it's normal for people to wonder what could have been. What could have been if Meghan Markle were not such a narcissistic, nasty, evil gold digger? What if Harry had chosen a more appropriate wife? They could really be a great help right now. And as for Meghan not being well prepared, not really understanding the role that she was expected to undertake, well, I mean, it's possible, but whose fault is that? It's certainly not the palace's. It is not the royal family's fault. They tried everything they could to help Meghan. They gave her advisors, but she didn't want to listen to them. So if anybody is to blame in not preparing Meghan for the role, I think it would have to be Harry and Meghan herself. I mean, I do believe that Harry probably didn't let her know what life was really like as a working royal because, I mean, honestly, how could he? It's not like Harry had a lot of experience as a commoner to compare life as a working royal to. So I think that was part of the problem. It's possible that Harry literally couldn't explain to Meghan what life was going to be like because he simply didn't have the language or experience to do so. But again, that is absolutely no excuse because there were other people who tried to give Meghan the advice that she needed. She just didn't want to listen. She didn't want to listen to Sophie, the Countess of Wessex at the time. She certainly didn't want to listen to her arch nemesis, Catherine, then the Duchess of Cambridge. Meghan Markle just had an idea of what her life was going to be like as a working royal, and she wasn't going to listen to anything else. Esther went on to say, "I suspect that Meghan didn't have the temperament to do it. I don't think she was well suited for the role. I don't think she would have been interested in playing second fiddle to the Waleses. I don't think she would have liked the regimented, strict lifestyle of a working royal." And I think Esther is absolutely right about that. As we have seen from Meghan Markle, unless she receives top billing, she's not interested in it. I believe that's why she didn't show up to the Living Legends of Aviation Award ceremony. She wasn't going to be able to dance with John Travolta. She wasn't going to get to present Harry with a spurious award. So she just stayed home and pretended one of the invisible children was sick. This is who Meghan is as a person. She is so self-absorbed. She is so sure of herself, so sure that she is the biggest star in the room that she's not going to allow anybody else to shine. And if it's an event where somebody else is going to have a chance to shine, well, Meghan's going to back out of it. Esther added, and I think she might have had her own intentions with the exposure and the platform she had as a duchess being very handy, and will always be handy. She will always get attention now. One of the things that was missing was duty. Did she ever show a sense of duty? Given the length of time she and Harry stayed as working royals, and how they left acrimoniously, everything that's followed, I think the answer is no. Well, I think the answer is obviously no. I don't know what kind of idiot out there would claim that Meghan ever had a sense of duty. Absolutely not. Meghan's only duty is to herself. She has made that very clear. Meghan truly believes that she is so far above everybody else, she is superior, and that was always going to be a problem for her as a working royal. Meghan was never going to be comfortable with doing things like shaking hands with the unwashed masses. She was never going to be okay with pretending to like and even hugging other people's children. From what we have seen of Meghan Markle interacting with the public, I would argue she's not a very good actress. She doesn't do a very good job of pretending to like them. You can see the disgust written all over her face. And that attitude does render her unsuitable for the job as working royal. But see, Meghan certainly overplayed her hand, believing that she was going to be such a hit in LA, that she was going to get all these job offers, that she was going to be a politician. As Krakus says, this is someone who, it was rumored, had political ambitions, so you never really know what to expect from the couple. And it's true, we really never know what to expect from them because I'm pretty sure they themselves don't know what to expect. They're all over the place. They're just trying out all kinds of different things, hoping that something's going to work out. But because they don't actually put any of the hard work necessary into any of their projects are bound to fail again and again and again. Are they ever going to figure it out and change their ways? Well, I don't know, but we're going to keep on watching to see if it happens. So according to the royal expert, yes, the air quotation marks are certainly there, Daniela Elser, Meghan Markle has just pushed King Charles to the edge. Basically, she's claiming that the palace really messed up when they allowed Harry and Meghan to get away back in 2020. In a time like this, Harry and Meghan could have easily just stepped in and taken the full mantle and done great things for the monarchy. Now, my first response to this is, has she completely lost her mind? According to Daniela Elser, the royal family now finds itself in a serious bind, which is largely one of their own creation, thinking like the chickens of Megxit have come home to roost. Now, it is true that right now there are not so many working royals who are able to work right now. We've got King Charles in hospital, we've got Catherine, the Princess of Wales, in the hospital, we've got William picking up the slack for Catherine when it comes to the kids and the family, so he's also not scheduled anything for the next, I think, 3 weeks or so. But even so, this doesn't mean that Harry and Meghan are necessary. I mean, it's better to have nobody than to have a couple of traitors picking up the slack who seem to have made it their mission in life to destroy the monarchy. It does mean that Queen Camilla is going to have to step up to the plate and do a little more. Now, Elser argues that Camilla generally looks like someone who is more interested in spending quality time with the new Barber catalog than charming pensioners in Swindon. And look, even if Queen Camilla does not appear to be somebody who is necessarily excited by royal duties, she's still more than willing to do her part. Camilla, let's remember, had to work very hard to prove herself. She had a very horrible reputation that she had to overcome, and she somehow managed to do it. So at a time like this, I do not believe it's appropriate to start trashing Camilla. Elser brings us back to 2019 and 2020 before we learned about Megxit, and she points out that Harry and Meghan were clearly not enjoying their jobs as working royals. Well, boo-hoo. Sure, there were a few signs that Harry and Meghan weren't really enjoying themselves, like when Meghan threw hot tea on that poor aide in Australia, or when she complained that nobody had asked her how she was feeling when they were in Africa. But again, these signs didn't make people feel sympathy for Harry and Meghan. Instead, it just made us see them for what they are, a couple of whiny brats. And if you ask me, these signs did not mean that the palace should have stepped in and done more for the two of them. Instead, Harry and Meghan from the very beginning showed us they had a lot of growing up to do. They showed that they were not appropriate for their roles as working royals, especially not Meghan. Harry on his own, sure, he was fine. But it was when Meghan entered the picture that all of a sudden we started hearing all these complaints, all these grievances. Even Harry claiming that he had never really wanted to undertake royal duties. He basically just did it because he had to. In 2019, of course, things really started to break down for Harry and Meghan. It's when we heard that Harry was filing suit against the Daily Mail over the alleged phone hacking, and he was also suing the Mirror and the Sun. In 2019, of course, we also learned the news that Harry and Meghan were going to be taking a little 6-week break from royal duties. And Elser writes, "It is exactly this point that the bright minds and Oxbridge-educated mandarins of the palace should have swung into methodical action. Things were clearly not working for the Duke and Duchess, and yet the Crown Ink desperately needed to keep them sweet and to keep them on the books. The Sussex's natural ability to reach younger audiences and those in Commonwealth, the hundreds of millions of people who might be less than enamored with the white-bread Waleses, was a God-given bit of luck that seemed like it had arrived just in the nick of time. Now, to be fair, which I always do try my best to be fair, back in 2019, Harry and Meghan did look to be very important to the monarchy. It did look like they were able to reach the audiences that typically were not such big fans of the royal family, like millennials and even Gen Z. It did look like Meghan, because of her biracial heritage that she won't shut up about, had a kind of pull with some members of the Commonwealth that maybe William and Catherine didn't have. It did look like Harry and Meghan were going to be an amazing asset to the monarchy. That is, until everything started to fall apart. I disagree with Daniela Elser, though, that it was somehow the palace's responsibility to come up with a plan to make sure that Harry and Meghan didn't leave. I disagree with her that all the problems were somehow the fault of the palace. The demands that Harry and Meghan were making were not reasonable. I mean, Harry and Meghan, with their plan of being half-in, half-out royals, getting to cherry-pick their engagements, that simply wasn't realistic. And that wasn't the palace's fault. That was the fault of Harry and Meghan. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted to still have all the perks of being working royals, but also be free to make their own money off their royal connections. So reportedly, the palace did come up with an idea to send Harry and Meghan to live in South Africa, and that's an idea that supposedly they were okay with. But then news of this idea ended up in the media and, quote, caused a huge stink. So Elsa writes, in my view, the palace failed the Duke and Duchess back then and right now, with the triple whammy of Kate, William, and Charles all benched. Their chickens are coming home to roost. They failed to prevent Harry and Meghan from taking the nuclear option and failed to keep them on side. Meaning that today, the House of Windsor is looking about as structurally sound as a prefab, jerry-rigged extension built on top of the San Andreas Fault. I don't agree with this viewpoint, though. I don't believe that the simple fact of King Charles and Catherine being in the hospital right now means that the monarchy is on the brink of collapse. I mean, this is not a permanent condition. It's going to be like this for a few weeks, sure. Another fact is that typically January and February are pretty quiet months for the working royals anyway. So this is not going to be some huge deal. This is not going to make them lose the support of the citizens. I mean, this is not something where they need Harry and Meghan. Elser argues that the next few weeks are going to be really challenging for the royal family because they're not going to get as much good publicity thanks to the absence of William and Catherine. Well, that might be true if the only thing the working royals did was show up and have their picture taken, but that's not the case. Instead, the working royals do a lot to help the country, to bring attention to good causes, and that's not something that's going to fall to the wayside just because a few key members are not able to work right now. Elser writes, what has become apparent this week is that Harry and Meghan, in jumping ship, have incidentally pushed the royal family to breaking point by leaving them painfully short-staffed. But the palace deserves to shoulder plenty of the responsibility, letting things fester and get so bad in 2019 for the Sussexes that they felt they had no other choice. Well, in a different universe, maybe what she's saying would be true. But Meghan Markle from the very beginning planned to run away. She never planned to stay on as a working royal. Megxit was something we found out about only in 2020, but it was a plan that was hatched probably before she even married Harry back in 2018. Because remember, Meghan had already been signing deals with Netflix and the likes way back before Megxit. So the truth is, this wasn't something that Harry and Meghan were pushed to do. This was something they chose to do because they wanted to, because they didn't want to have to follow the rules. Meghan didn't want to have to curtsy to anybody. They wanted to be free to use their royal connections to make as much money for themselves. And for that, the palace cannot be held responsible. Sometimes my friends ask me, Beverly, why are you so obsessed with Harry and Meghan? Why are you always reading all kinds of news about them? If you don't like them so much, then just stop talking about them. Stop paying attention to them. And, they have a point, I've got to admit. But at the same time, I cannot stop myself. I think I'm addicted, and I think all of you are too. So I came across this excellent article in The Sun today written by Colin Robertson. He writes, half-wit Prince Harry and his grinning wife Meghan are like two stupid but adorable pets trapped in the tumble dryer. And I just knew I had to read all of this because it sounds like he's on the same page as we are. He points out that not only are Harry and Meghan liars, but they've really got some nerve too. I mean, it really does take a special kind of person to make up a lie about the late queen, claiming that she approved their decision to name their invisible daughter Lilibet, when in fact, she never approved. She didn't know anything about it. And this is kind of the way I feel about it too. I mean, as horrible as they are, it's also just astounding that they do all of this stuff and they somehow see no problem with it. Colin writes, mugging off the queen by pretending she had given the royal thumbs up to pinching her nickname takes some next-level chutzpah. And he also said, I've lost count of the cobblers they've spewed about themselves and all those beastly people who have made their gilded lives so miserable. The story of their struggle is so full of holes, it makes the crown look like a documentary. It is crazy, isn't it, just how many lies Harry and Meghan have told and how many lies they continue to tell. And folks, this is why I really believe there is something seriously wrong with both of them. They have completely lost their minds. I don't know if they ever really had their minds, but at this point in time, I mean, it's a little scary how out of touch with reality they really are. But it's crazy how, even though we know that they're lying, somehow we still want to hear what they're going to say next. Colin explains it by saying, we must all now be at the point where we no longer believe a word they say, yet somehow we're still entertained. He writes, the half-wit prince and his rictus-grinning mum-wife are endlessly fascinating, like two stupid but adorable pets who get trapped in the tumble dryer. We know they're idiots, but still we want more. And I gotta say, he's right about that. Later on, he writes, we're actually enjoying your dedication to delusion. And you know, this is kind of the way I feel about them too. I don't know about you, but I'm one of those people who kind of lives by the motto, well, you either gotta laugh about it or you gotta cry about it, so I'm gonna laugh about it. The truth is, there are many things in this world that we can either be offended by or we can choose to have a sense of humor about, and I do believe that Harry and Meghan are a perfect example of this. Now, I'm not going to have a sense of humor about the way they were so abusive to the late Queen and the late Prince Philip. I'm not kidding around when it comes to a topic like that. But when it comes to the ridiculous lies, when it comes to the puff pieces they put out in the media, honestly, I think it makes us feel better that we can laugh at them a bit, because otherwise, the whole situation really is tragic. And I do appreciate sharing all of this with you. I think our little community that we've got here at Kate Middleton and the Queen is something special. I love reading your comments, and I just feel like in some way in this crazy world that we live in, Kate Middleton and the Queen is a little corner of sanity. So thank all of you for being here with me. All right, folks, and now for some discussion time. Now I'm going to be talking about the comments that you all left in response to the video, Harry's defeat in Mail on Sunday battle sparks royal humiliation. In this video, we were talking about that last Friday, Harry quietly dropped his case against the Mail on Sunday newspaper. He had sued them for libel over a story they ran alleging that Harry had intentionally misled the public, which of course he had. So let's see what you all had to say. The first comment comes from a very loyal audience member, Paula Weaver. Paula says, in my opinion, Harry's lawyer team finally got through to Harry that if he continued the lawsuit with Mail on Sunday, that every lie or misinformation Harry had texted or emailed anyone would come back to work against him in the long term. So Harry had to walk away with his tail between his legs because Harry didn't potentially serve jail time for telling lies to the judge, in my opinion. Plus, didn't the Chief of Scotland Yard say police protection was for sale at any price? Not sure. Does anyone else remember this? Thank you. Oh, Paula, I absolutely remember it. In fact, I think it was more than one person who said that under no circumstances would police protection in the UK ever be for sale for anybody, even if it's Prince Harry. I mean, he's just so delusional. He believes that he should receive that because it's what he wants. Like you, I'm also very bothered by the fact that Harry and Meghan are able to just commit perjury in London courtrooms, and it seems like they don't suffer any consequences for it. Oh, I know Meghan had to apologize, and she had to admit that she had misremembered, but it's wrong. I mean, they should not be getting away with this stuff. And the next comment from another very loyal audience member, Dizzy Chef. Dizzy says, why did Harry do this? Meghan's idea? It's such a bad move. If it's Meghan's decision, what is she up to? Harry has no clue what's happening to him. Why did John Travolta do this to him? What did it prove? Maybe that Harry is desperate for glory, or maybe that Meghan needed attention after the fact, but nothing went her way to present Harry with the award. She missed her chance to be on the center stage with a mic. Nothing went her way to dance with John Travolta. What's going on? We know Meg had a plan that fell through, so she didn't even show up. There is more to this than we know. Oh, Dizzy, I've got the same feeling. I just really want to know, what was it? Was it really that she was trying to recreate that infamous dance between John Travolta and Diana? I mean, is she really that crazy? Probably so. Or could it have been that she insisted on giving the award to Harry? I remember I came across that rumor too, that Harry and Meghan were insisting that Meghan needed to give him the medal or whatever it was he got, or else neither of them was going to show up. Well, obviously Harry showed up, but yeah, what's Meghan's real excuse? Next, let's hear what Bobby Jones has to say. Bobby says, do Harry and Meghan not realize that if they had been quietly friendly to people, very discreet in their actions and conversations with people, not the least bit pushy and not trashed family, they may have had more people who wanted to get to know them and maybe invite them to events and parties. People do not want Harry and Meghan telling everyone who they spent time with, what was said, and who did what. They want discretion. They don't want to listen to them whine victim and trash family, and their behavior and attitudes turn people off. Bobby, I couldn't have put it better myself. You hit the nail on the head with this comment. And that's something that Harry and Meghan really seem to be incapable of understanding. That even for people like them, it matters how you treat people. It's not just who you are. You know, I had to have that same conversation with my little granddaughter one time. She was getting a little too big for her britches, thinking that she was better than other people because she is precious and really smart and also just all around talented. But I told her, honey, so she was complaining about how other kids at school, I guess, were not wanting to play with her. And I told her, baby, I don't care how cute you are. I don't care how wonderful you are. I don't care how smart you are. If you're not nice to other people, if you don't do kind things to help them out and share with them, nobody's going to want to spend time with you. Just being yourself is not enough to earn friends. You have to actually treat people well. And she took my advice, I'm proud to say, and now she's doing great. But clearly this is something that Harry and Meghan never figured out. And finally, a comment from AGIBC. AG says, as predicted, this litigation will fail the Harkles very badly. It's a year of total failure for the gruesome two. Good. Keep them out of royal family, as some will need much rest, peace, and quiet. No calls to King Charles for financial aid. Mr. Finance Princess Royal, poor thing, too much in her hands as Counselor of State and acting ad interim for King Charles. Harry bank closure till after Easter Bunny. Surely they're not going to be so tacky as to call the royal family and beg for money at a time like this. I mean, surely even they are not that despicable. And I agree with you. It's a good thing they're not in the UK right now, so that the lovely Princess of Wales and the King can get the rest that they so desperately need right now. You know, sometimes I gotta admit, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle do face criticism that they don't necessarily deserve. So case in point, Charles and Catherine right now are both in hospital, and people keep on talking about whether or not Harry and Meghan have sent some private well wishes and whether or not they should say something publicly. On the one hand, people say they absolutely need to release some kind of public statement wishing the King and Catherine well. I mean, these are their close family members we're talking about. It's a bit obscene that they're out there accepting awards and going to red carpet premieres when they still haven't said a word publicly about Charles and Catherine. And then, on the other hand, we got people saying that it's not their business to make any statement whatsoever. That, in fact, whenever Harry and Meghan in the past have issued any kind of public statement about anything, they've just dealt with a bunch of criticism, which is a point. I'm not going to say it's a good point or a fair point, but it is a point that I understand. It is true that in the past, when Harry and Meghan have issued public statements on things such as, oh, I don't know, the war in Ukraine, or the war between Israel and Hamas, for example, they did face a lot of criticism. But I understand that criticism because Harry and Meghan had no business speaking on those topics. I mean, they issue these statements like their opinions matter. Nobody cares what they have to say, and that's why people were laughing at them. The situation with Charles and Catherine, in my eyes, is totally different. This is appropriate for them to comment. I mean, the King is Harry's father, and Catherine is his sister-in-law. I don't see how anybody is going to call foul if he and Meghan issue some nice, polite, caring message of support for the two of them. I mean, sure, some people might say that Harry and Meghan are only saying something to get attention for themselves, but Harry and Meghan are accused of trying to get attention for themselves all the time anyway, and that hasn't stopped them yet from doing anything they like to do. Royal expert Victoria Arbiter claims, "I don't see why Harry and Meghan should be expected to make a public statement. It would be performative at best, and as history has shown, when they do speak out, they're criticized for making it all about themselves, and when they don't, they're accused of being uncaring. They're damned either way. Hopefully, they felt it appropriate to contact the King and the Princess of Wales privately." Now, supposedly, they did reach out privately. Do we believe that report? Maybe, maybe not. But to me, the bigger issue here is that Harry and Meghan have made public appearances during this time. It's not as if they've just been laying low at home in Montecito trying to avoid the media because it would be inappropriate for them to get attention in the media at this point. They don't care. If Harry really cared about his father and his sister-in-law, if he was really worried about them at a time like this, wouldn't he be in the UK right now instead of showing up to collect these cheap awards and then a few days later show up in Jamaica of all places to go to a movie premiere? I mean, this is not what a caring son looks like, and this certainly isn't what a caring brother-in-law looks like. The best way to know what two people are really doing, how they're thinking, what they're going to do next, is to look at their behavior. And when I look at the behavior of Harry and Meghan, I do not see any possibility of reconciliation with the royal family. I don't believe Harry and Meghan are even interested in it. Now, maybe it is true that WME told Meghan she had to reconcile or else they were done with her, but it looks like they're just going to be done with her. Meghan is never ever going to try to make peace with her sworn enemies. She's never going to admit that perhaps she was wrong. Harry's never going to admit that he made a horrible mistake when he married that nasty witch. So it looks like we're going to see more of the same from them. And personally, I'm going to choose to enjoy it. I'm going to choose to look forward to their next tacky outing so we can again be reminded of just how far they have fallen. And in the meantime, I'm going to keep on sending those prayers up for King Charles and Catherine. And I do hope that while Catherine is feeling unwell while she's in the hospital, I do hope that she got to read all the headlines about how awful Meghan looked, about how people in the crowd were shouting F you and booing them as they walked in. I mean, I hope that Catherine at least got a little enjoyment out of their appearance at the Bob Marley movie premiere in Jamaica. Catherine has moved on. She's not worried about those two, so I hope that she, like us, gets a little enjoyment out of their failures. All right, my friends, and now for a little discussion time. Today, we're going to be talking about the comments that you all left in response to the video, "No Excuse, Harry and Meghan Under Fire for Bad Decision in Jamaica." In this video, we were talking about Harry and Meghan's now infamous appearance at the Bob Marley One Love movie premiere in Kingston, Jamaica, where they happily posed with people who are not really big fans of Harry's daddy, King Charles, people who are very vocal about their lack of support for the Commonwealth, of which Harry's father is king. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why this appearance was not necessarily a great idea. Let's see what you all had to say. First up, a comment from Kate London. Kate writes, "I know the Harkles aren't very bright, either one of them. But they must be going broke, and they are being treated like D-list reality stars. It's over for them in Hollywood, that's clear. There's not going to be a comeback because their popularity and success were only because of their ties to the royal family. Both of them need the palace. Harry because he's getting divorced and going bankrupt and needs to come back to his family, hopefully as a non-working royal, and Meghan Markle because she can only get a decent divorce settlement from King Charles because Harry is all tapped out. So, they decide to offend the royals further by flying to Jamaica to get photographed with the very guy who told Prince William to his face that the country was going to cut ties with the crown. Doesn't make any sense. The Harkles have lost their war with the monarchy, and they still keep digging themselves in further." And then Kim agrees. Kate, I mean, my mind has been blown by their behavior recently. It makes no sense to me. I don't believe I have ever witnessed a couple of people who are so good at self-sabotage. And the crazy thing is, it seems like they don't understand why the royal family doesn't want to rebuild a relationship with them. It seems like they are still in the dark as to what is problematic about their behavior. Are they ever going to change? I mean, at this point, probably not. It looks like the Harkle show is nowhere near ending, so folks, get the popcorn ready. And the next comment comes to us from a user called Pocket Nunu. Pocket Nunu writes, "He had to be there. This phrase struck me as a jab at his brother William and Catherine's previous trip to Jamaica, where the people loved them, but the Prime Minister announced Jamaica's attempt to leave the UK Commonwealth. Was it a failed attempt to back up William and Catherine, or an attempt to align with Jamaica's Prime Minister as I had first thought? Or was it completely non-political and more likely a demand of Meghan Markle that his presence was required? or perhaps a move of Harry's own to break up Meghan Markle's plans to be with another man. There are so many possibilities. I mean, I think a lot of people online right now are talking about what Harry possibly could have meant with that statement. But I really don't believe that this was some kind of way to support William and Catherine's previous visit. I mean, I think if anything, he was trying to undermine them. Now, is that what he meant with that specific sentence? I don't know. And please, if you have any strong opinions about what Harry may have meant by that statement, let me know in the comments section. I mean, I'm as curious as anybody else is. According to The Express, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle made a surprise appearance at the Bob Marley One Love premiere in Jamaica. And you can see this photo of them on the red carpet, and the first thing I noticed is, wow, Meghan, you've gotten a little too much work done. I mean, at this point, her face is almost unrecognizable. Her eyes especially look so weird. My guess is she's gotten a little too much filler put in her cheeks, and so now whenever she smiles, her cheeks push her eyes up so far that she's basically squinting. She's smiling like she's in a great deal of pain, which she probably is. It looks like they have shot her up with way too much Botox, way too many fillers, and so it probably hurts to make any facial expression whatsoever. For this event, Meghan showed up wearing a black spaghetti strap ball gown, which was not very appropriate and didn't fit her well, but again, it's Meghan Markle, so this is par for the course. And Harry showed up wearing a suit without a tie. Now, Meghan's dress is a bit much for this event, which led me to assume that this is probably the dress she bought for the Living Legends of Aviation event that she didn't get to go to because Lauren Sanchez told her that she'd better stay away or else. But hey, maybe we should give Meghan some credit for this. Maybe this is her trying to be frugal. There's also a funny scene where the CEO of Paramount Pictures is on the red carpet with his wife, and Harry and Meghan come in and basically sidle up to them to get their photo taken. So Meghan's all excited to be close to people who actually worked hard for their money, so she puts her arm around the CEO's wife. Needless to say, the CEO's wife did not reciprocate, and they didn't even bother scooting over to make room for the fake royals. Instead, the look on their faces told us they couldn't wait to get away. But at this point, that's how everybody in Hollywood responds to the fake royals, so they should be used to it. Now, obviously, this is just an attempt from the Harkles to clap back at William and Catherine because a couple of years ago, their visit to Jamaica was not necessarily successful. And another thing is, their former PR person, Toya Holness, she is related to the Prime Minister, so that's probably how they got an invitation anyway. So it looks like the Carparkles are going to have to try again if they want to convince everybody that they really are important. And another thing about this visit is, what about the invisible children? I thought they were sick. I thought that's why Meghan couldn't come to the Living Legends of Aviation event honoring her beloved husband, Prince Harry. I mean, that was only a few days ago, so either one of those children made a miraculous recovery, or maybe Meghan left her poor sick baby with Doria. Or could it be that nobody was really sick in the first place? Well, last time I checked, dolls are not usually susceptible to common childhood illnesses, so it could be that Meghan told a little fib. Shocking, I know. Events like this, though, where Harry and Meghan show up and toot their own horn and pat themselves on the back and tell each other they're still relevant, people still care about them. I mean, my question is, what is the point? Who are they trying to convince with these little stunts? It has to be themselves because nobody else is convinced. I mean, when are they going to give it up? When are they going to recognize the best thing they could do is lay low, take time away from the spotlight instead of just claiming that you're going to, and take that time to really work on yourselves, become better people, realize the error of your ways, and then work to fix them. But honestly, folks, it looks like we are never going to see that. So instead, we're going to sit back, we're going to get the popcorn ready, and we're going to continue to watch them self-destruct, one red carpet at a time. All right, folks, and now time for a little bit of discussion. So today, I'm going to be talking about the comments that you all left in response to the video, It's Over. Division in Meghan and Harry's marriage is exposed. So for this video, I was referring to a post that I came across on Quora. It was a post that was written by a gentleman who lives in Bray, and he's got some access to insider information thanks to who else lives in Bray, namely members of the royal household. And he's claiming he overheard a conversation at dinner where people were talking about the fact that Harry and Meghan are not together anymore. They're not living together, and they're just keeping up appearances for the sake of their brand, whatever that means. Personally, I do believe that these rumors are true. I think there are so many signs that Harry and Meghan are done, but let's see what you all had to say. The first comment I'm choosing to share comes from user ET2. I couldn't be more proud of the man Prince William has become. He will be a wonderful and loyal support to his father, King Charles, and is one son who can be trusted and relied upon. Our Prince of Wales will make a fine king one day. With his dedication to duty, his loyalty, and having such a strong connection to the public of all ages in the UK and the Commonwealth, it's not surprising that Prince William and his lovely wife are so loved by so many throughout the UK and all over the world. I applaud and respect the wonderful Prince and Princess of Wales. I love this comment so much because I think that you are sharing the opinion of so many people with this. I think the country is incredibly lucky, and really the world is incredibly lucky, to have William and Catherine as the Prince and Princess of Wales and later on the King and Queen. So we got some replies too. Kim agrees, and Gina Whiteley says, I'm glad that Mike Tyndall has stepped up to be the brother Prince William needs now. I love this comment too, Gina. You're right. Mike Tyndall has really stepped up after Harry left. And you know, in some ways, Mike Tyndall is going to be a better brother to William than Harry ever was. At least William's not going to be having to clean up his messes all the time. And the next response comes from user ET2. Mike and Zara really are wonderful. The royal family are a close family, which makes it all the harder when you have treachery like with Harry and Meghan. Indeed. And then Gina says, thanks for your comment. And thank you all for being respectful and kind and polite in your replies to each other. And next comment comes from Dizzy Chef. Dizzy says, Catherine loved Harry like a brother. Harry did so wrong to his family and so wrong allowing his wife to hurt his family just as she hurt her own family, neglecting her sick father. If one has love, they don't hurt others. Love is special, loyal, protective. He's only listening to his wife, who is so jealous and being a bully to his family. We've got some replies for this one, too. Sonny Davidson says, Harry demonstrates that you can't pick your family. That's true. And Gina says, be glad that Mike Tyndall has stepped up to be the brother Prince William needs now. Dizzy Chef, it sounds like you feel about like I do about what Harry did to Catherine. I mean, of all people, it was so wrong of him to attack her like that. She is such a lovely woman. She was such a lovely sister-in-law to him. I know it hurts her, the fact that he's turned on her like that, but at the same time, I would guess she's not too broken up about it, because she has her real family members who care about her. She's got William, she's got the kids, she's got the royal family who love her to bits, and she also has really good friends she has had since childhood. So all right, Harry, it's more your loss than anything else. To be fair, Harry and Meghan are not two people who are well known necessarily for their judgment. In fact, I would say they're pretty well known for having some of the worst judgment that we have seen from any two people in the history of the world. And Harry and Meghan showing up to the film premiere of the new Bob Marley movie One Love in Kingston, Jamaica is a perfect example of this lack of judgment. And according to Mark Roth and Jonathan Sweet, a couple of writers over at The Hill, Harry and Meghan's appearance in Jamaica wasn't simply a personal insult to the King and Catherine, the Princess of Wales. It's a matter of national security. Now, this is not the first time that we have seen an article where Mark Toth and Jonathan Sweet talk about how problematic and really dangerous Harry and Meghan are. I just love their writing style. So the first paragraph, we've got red carpets, Hollywood glitz, and staged photo ops are not evocative of a humble Rastafarian lifestyle. Nor was Meghan Markle gaudily wearing an oversized black ball dress during a surprise appearance at the movie premiere of Bob Marley One Love in Kingston, Jamaica. Because seriously, what excuse did Meghan have for wearing that ridiculous dress? I mean, who wears a dress like that to a rundown movie theater? Well, I guess Meghan Markle does, and we assume it's just because it was the dress that she bought to dance with John Travolta at the Living Legends of Aviation Award ceremony before he said absolutely not. Not one to be dissuaded from showing off that boxy torso of hers, she decided to wear it in Jamaica. Many people also commented on Meghan's skin tone. It appeared to be a little darker since the last time we saw her, either due to the fact that she had spent a full week in Jamaica before she joined Harry, or perhaps she paid for an extra layer of that self-tanner. Who really knows and who really cares? I'll tell you what we should care about, though. We should care about the political implications of Harry and Meghan's little visit to Jamaica. Though Harry and Meghan may play dumb, and they are dumb in many respects, this was no innocent trip to walk down a red carpet and watch a movie. Indeed, Toth and Sweet write, always looking for an opportunity, Harry and Meghan sent an unmistakable message by their very presence. Infamous already for endorsing the branding of 56-member Commonwealth of Nations as Empire 2.0 in their eponymous Netflix series, Harry and Meghan's eye-catching walk down the carpet was likely intended to upstage King Charles and his putative successor, Prince William. And you know, in light of everything we have seen over the past few years, it's pretty difficult to come to any other conclusion. Harry, at least, knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to hurt his father. He was trying to hurt his brother. He was trying to hurt the memory of his late grandmother. I agree 100% with these writers who are saying that this move was carefully calculated. This was no accident. The timing was intentional. Instead of doing what normal people would do and support the family in their time of need, Harry and Meghan are over there rubbing their hands with glee, excitedly licking their lips, thrilled that finally the spotlight is going to be on them. But Harry and Meghan may be failing to see the much bigger and more important picture here. It's not only about Harry and his petty family arguments. The way they're behaving is actually endangering the safety of millions of people all around the world. Todd and Sweet explain, this would all be amusing were it not for the serious damage Harry and Meghan continue to inflict upon the national security of the United Kingdom and its Commonwealth partners, and by extension to the U.S. with their effective promotion of Russian and Chinese propaganda. And I agree with these writers, it really is that serious. And is this really what Harry and Meghan want? For years now, there have been rumors that at least Meghan Markle is being backed by some very powerful people, some people who don't want their identities getting out, some people who may or may not hold Russian or Chinese passports. It makes a lot of sense when you think about it. You see, right now, whether we like it or not, all of us are caught up in this culture war. We've got forces in Russia and China seeking to destabilize our world, and they're doing it in some really scary, really sneaky ways, like TikTok, for example. I tell my grandkids all the time, and I wish they'd listen to me. TikTok is a dangerous app. TikTok is trying to make us stupider. The algorithm that China uses for their own TikTok is a different one from what the rest of the world uses. And I wonder why that is. It's not because they're promoting the best content for us. It's because a population that can no longer think for itself is incredibly easy to control. Todd and Sweet go on to write, Harry and Meghan are incapable of reading the room at a geostrategic level. Devoid of much-needed Whitehall guidance, they are foolishly playing into the propaganda hands of Russia's Vladimir Putin and China's Xi Jinping. Moscow and Beijing are out to destroy the Commonwealth headed by King Charles, and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex continue to help them at every turn. And they are right about that, because guess where so many of the Commonwealth countries are located? They're located in Africa. And guess what Africa has? A wealth of natural resources. And guess which country has been trying to and is still trying to get their hands on as many of those natural resources as possible? Well, China, of course. Now, Russia, too, to a lesser extent. But just think about how much easier it would be for Chinese and Russian forces to get into those countries if the Commonwealth were disbanded. So since Harry and Meghan obviously are enemies of the Commonwealth and enemies of Britain and certainly enemies of the Crown, how does it make sense for them to continue to hold on to those titles? Well, according to Toth and Sweet, the only logical move at this point in time is for the King and Parliament to strip them of those titles. They write, simply put, it is time for Harry and Meghan to be formally stripped of their royal titles by an act of the British Parliament. Their decision at the One Love premiere to glad hand Marlene Malahou Forte, the Jamaican Minister for Legal and Constitutional Affairs, was unforgivable from a king and country point of view. Forte is spearheading the movement for Jamaica to cease being a realm of King Charles and to become a republic. Nor was it constitutionally wise for Harry to be pictured with Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who is continuing with his plans to hold a referendum on it later this year. And they point out that independence for Jamaica is not a problem. Nobody is saying that it is. Of course, Jamaicans have every right to be an independent nation if that's what they choose. But at the same time, Harry is the son of the king, of the Commonwealth. It makes no sense for him to be up there endorsing this idea. I mean, just think about how self-absorbed Harry has to be basically be willing to put the entire monarchy at risk just over some petty grievances that he has with his family. I mean, talk about cutting off his nose to spite his face. Toth and Sweet conclude the article by writing, Harry is always going to be a problem. His brash declaration on the red carpet that he had to be here in Jamaica is sufficiently indicative of that. Did he really, when his father is facing a medical procedure? When his sister-in-law is recuperating from serious surgery? Neither of which has he commented on publicly. Yes, Harry and Meghan had to be there. It was too tempting an opportunity to seize the stage from Charles and William. Essentially, however, they were ambulance chasing and appeared to be vainly attempting to profit from their family's medical challenges. Harry and Meghan started this knife fight. It is time King Charles and Parliament put a decisive end to it. Well, it looks like Harry and Meghan's time of being treated well in the American media has certainly come to a close. Now, I'm not sure that the writers over at Fox News were ever necessarily big fans of the Sussexes. I think it's not quite their audience. Harry and Meghan were trying for a more woke audience. But anyway, there is an article now on foxnews.com with the headline, "Don't Expect Prince Harry to Be There in His Family's Current Hour of Need." Harry and Meghan seem to have incinerated their support in Britain, America, and even Hollywood. It certainly is a scathing assessment that, if you ask me, is right on the money. Right now, many citizens in Britain, the Commonwealth countries, and all around the world are sending up prayers for King Charles and Catherine, the Princess of Wales. As we've reported before, Catherine recently underwent abdominal surgery, and she's still in hospital recovering. And as if having one HRH in the hospital isn't enough, we've also got King Charles undergoing a procedure to correct an enlarged prostate. Lee Cohen, writing for Fox News, writes that this highlights the fact of the monarchy's human vulnerability, and he's right. I mean, this is a time when it's good to remember that even though they are royals, even though they have these fancy titles, they are still human. They can still fall ill. They still need help sometimes. And for Prince Harry especially, I mean, this is his own family we're talking about. This is his father. This is his formerly beloved sister-in-law, the same woman he once claimed he loved like his own sister. And so at a time like this, Harry and Meghan should be doing more. Yes, I'm going to say it. Their silence is incredibly offensive. Their lack of care, their lack of even sending out one single considerate message wishing the King and Catherine well is offensive. It's wrong. It's disgusting. And look, I myself would talk about the hypocrisy if they were to release a statement, because they are a couple of people who have brought undue stress into the lives of both Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and King Charles. But at the same time, saying nothing, that's the path they chose to take? No, it's not enough. I mean, saying anything, even if it's something that could be construed as hypocritical, would be a lot better than saying nothing at all. Lee Cohen writes, but at a time when the Sussexes might have actually contributed something valuable, their personal flaws and failures are newly exposed. Indeed, their behavior lets down not just Harry's family in a difficult moment, but an entire nation. And I couldn't agree with Lee's words more. I mean, this is a time when Harry and Meghan could actually get some positive PR for themselves, something they seem to so desperately want. But instead of actually doing something good, something to help Harry's family, something to help the monarchy, what are they doing? Oh, they're flying to Jamaica to meet with one of the most staunch anti-royalists out there. Individuals who would love nothing more than to see the life's work of the late Queen, the Commonwealth, just completely fall apart. For better or for worse, this is also a time when the royal family really is facing a lack of working members. We've got the King in hospital, we have the Princess of Wales in hospital, and Prince William, even though he's doing fine when it comes to his health, he's having to help Catherine a lot. He's helping with the children, so he's also not available for duties. So that means that basically we've got the tireless Princess Anne, as well as Prince Edward and his wife Sophie, emerging as really the only dependable figures who can pick up the slack right now. At a time like this, the royal family certainly could use another two able-bodied working members like Harry and Meghan, but unfortunately that's not possible. Cohen writes, once a beloved figure known for his dedication and engaging personality, Prince Harry departed from meaningful royal service in 2020 to pursue self-enriching paths in America. His absence leaves a void. He goes on to write, the unforgivable statements made and actions taken by Harry and his wife to damage the monarchy and his family personally add to the betrayal. Under such circumstances, who could disagree with the public outcry for the prince and his wife to have their royal titles revoked? Who indeed? Because we're not only talking about Harry leaving his position as a working royal. That's not what this is about. And I do believe that Harry and Meghan still like to tell themselves that's why the royal family's so mad at them. That's why the palace hates them, because they dared to leave. No, that has nothing to do with it. If they had really just gone off to pursue their own freedom, to make their own money, to be truly independent, nobody would have a problem with that. But that's not what they left to do. They left to go and try to make as much money as possible by throwing Harry's family under the bus, by telling lies, whatever they needed to say basically to get that money in their pockets. The behavior we have seen from them ever since Megxit is nothing short of appalling. So yes, of course, the natural response is remove the titles. Obviously, they despise the monarchy, so what right do they have to go around calling themselves Duke and Duchess? Now obviously, at this point in time, the monarchy is much better without those two traitors in their midst. If Harry and Meghan were let back in, we know what they would do. They would just sell more secrets to the highest bidder. And they would get the info they needed by whatever means necessary. Lying is something they're not afraid of. They're not afraid of wearing recording devices. They're not afraid of sneaking into off-limits places in the palace just to get the scoop. And this is precisely the reason they can never be allowed back in as working members of the royal family. Cohen goes on to write, though the royal workforce is taxed by their absence, the monarchy is actually far better off without the malicious, untrustworthy pair, endeavoring to monetize all aspects of the only thing that makes them noteworthy and relevant, the relationship with Harry's family. And Cohen is right that the monarchy is going to come out of this doing just fine. I mean, this is a 1,000-year-old institution we're talking about here. They have weathered storms far worse than anything the Sussexes have to offer. Harry and Meghan waged a war against Harry's family, and the only losers in this war are going to be Harry and Meghan themselves. It was a colossal mistake for those two to ever believe they had anything to offer outside of their royal connections, and it looks like they are learning their lesson the hard way. As Cohen writes, monarchy can survive only as long as there is public support. But Prince Harry and Meghan Markle seem to have incinerated their popularity in Britain, America, and even Hollywood, where they were once the toast of the town. And he is right about that. When Harry and Meghan first moved to America, people really were excited to work with them. And that's why it was relatively easy for them to land all these lucrative deals, like with Netflix and Spotify and Penguin Random House. But then, quickly, these companies started to realize that Harry and Meghan didn't have any ideas of their own. The only thing they had to sell was gossip about Harry's family. And once we got the docuseries, once we got Harry's book Spare, once we heard everything Meghan had to say in her stupid podcast series, their story was told. That was that. They didn't have any more information on the royals because the royals didn't give them anything to work with. I mean, it's been a long time since they have been privy to any kind of private information that's being dispensed in Harry's family. And then they tried to convince us that they're content creators, that they have so many good ideas. Well, we heard a few of their ideas and they're absolute crap. So now with the money running out and no new contracts coming their way, what are we going to see from the Duke and Duchess of Deceit? Well, if what we have seen so far in 2024 is anything to go by, I'm going to predict increasingly unhinged behavior. And you, do you agree with the opinion that Harry and Meghan have incinerated their support in Britain, America, and even Hollywood? And if you do agree, where can they possibly go from here? Please let me know your opinion below in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video today, don't hesitate to like and share it with anybody else who would appreciate it too. And as always, don't forget to click that subscribe button so that you don't miss a single update from Kate Middleton and the Queen. Thank you so much for tuning in. You have a wonderful day, and I'll be back to see you in the next videos.